My father trapped me in a soundproof closet and drugged me for therapy, then blamed it on a neurological disorder. I exposed him, got him convicted, and moved in with my uncle. He just reached out. My name is Micah. I'm 9 years old, and I live with my dad in a gray house on the edge of Reedville, Oregon. My mom died when I was 5. I don't remember a lot about her anymore, just that she smelled like laundry and used to sing when she cooked. Everything changed after she was gone. I woke up that morning to a note on my desk. It was folded into thirds, creased like an envelope, my name printed in my dad's handwriting across the front. You now live under the Decibel Discipline Protocol, DDP, it said. At first, I thought it was a joke. Some weird experiment. My dad was a marine biologist who worked with whales and sonar equipment, so he always had strange ideas. But when I walked into the kitchen and saw the grid taped next to the fridge, I knew it wasn't a game. The chart had columns labeled sound type, decibel range, demerits. Dropping silverware, 5 demerits. Talking above a whisper, 2 demerits. Sneezing without covering my mouth, 10. Every 10 demerits meant a skipped meal. I stared at it until my stomach growled. The kitchen smelled like bleach and burnt toast. My dad was already seated at the table, sipping black coffee and scanning notes. He didn't look up when he said, "If you're quiet, you'll earn breakfast." I whispered, "What if I'm not?" He turned a page in his notebook. "Then you'll learn." That was how it started. A few weeks later, on my birthday, I didn't get a gift. Not a real one. No card. No cake. Just a tiny black device with a lanyard. "It's called a decibel tracker," he said. "You'll wear it at all times. It logs your daily output. If you exceed your threshold, you lose privileges." "What privileges?" I asked, my voice barely audible. He smiled, but it wasn't the good kind. Like eating. That night at dinner, he made overcooked cod. It crumbled dry on my tongue. I tried to stay still, stay silent, stay invisible. But I scraped my fork on the plate by accident. The sound was quick, barely anything. His eye twitched. I froze, fork in hand. He reached across the table without a word and unhooked the tracker from my neck. Then he stood, walked to the fridge, and tapped the grid with a pencil. 15 demerits, he said. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. He wrote it down in the logbook. No breakfast. No lunch. Try again tomorrow. And that was it. Just another line on a chart. Just another silence. It happened on a Thursday. Gym class had just started, and we were supposed to be doing laps. I remember the whistle blowing, the echo bouncing off the cinderblock walls, the other kids' sneakers squeaking on the floor. But I couldn't move. My legs were heavy. My head felt like it was floating above my shoulders. My stomach was a tight, empty knot. I hadn't eaten since the day before. Not even a granola bar. Coach Landers shouted something, but it came through like it was underwater. I made it halfway across the gym before the lights spun and my knees buckled. The floor hit me fast. Hard. Cold. The next thing I knew, I was lying on a vinyl-covered bed in the nurse's office, my arms tingling and my lips dry. Someone was talking softly near my head. "Micah," the nurse said. "Can you hear me?" I nodded. She handed me a tiny cup of water. I sipped it slowly. "Do you have any medical conditions we should know about?" she asked. I shook my head. "You eaten anything today?" My voice cracked. "No." She frowned. "Did you forget breakfast?" I paused. The words slipped out before I could stop them. "I'll be quieter next time. Just don't erase my dinner." There was silence. Not the kind I lived in, but a different kind. Thick. Still. She called the counselor. Ms. Torres arrived about 10 minutes later. She always wore soft cardigans and smelled like peppermint. She knelt beside the bed and smiled gently. "Micah," she said, "can we talk for a little while?" I nodded. We sat in her office while I picked at the corner of the chair cushion. "I just want to understand," she said. "You mentioned something about earning your dinner by being quiet. Can you tell me what that means?" It took a long time, but eventually it came out. About the decibel chart on the fridge. The demerits. The meals that disappeared if I made too much noise. The tracker around my neck. The rule about sleeping on the floor so the bed wouldn't creak. She didn't interrupt. She just wrote things down slowly. When I finished, my face was hot and wet, and I didn't remember crying. She squeezed my hand. "Thank you for telling me." That afternoon, 2 people came to the school. A man named Mr. Leland and a woman in a gray jacket. They said they were from Child Protective Services. They asked if I would talk to them. I told them everything again. Mr. Leland took notes on a legal pad. He was quiet, calm. The woman asked questions, but not the kind that made me feel scared. Just questions to understand. Then my dad showed up. He walked into the room like he'd just come from a board meeting. Clean-shaven, tucked-in shirt, medical file in hand. His smile was friendly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I understand there's been some confusion," he said. "Micah is under the care of a neurologist for a condition called hyperacoustic migraine disorder. We've implemented a home-based behavioral program to reduce environmental triggers. He handed over paperwork with long words and color-coded charts. Everything looked official. The fridge was stocked. The logs were clean. There were no bruises, no scars, just silence. So they let me go home. Mr. Leland put a hand on my shoulder before I left. We'll follow up soon, okay? I nodded, but I already knew what that meant. They were leaving me there. And my father knew it too. Error in message stream retry. The fridge got a new lock the next day. Heavy, silver, industrial. The kind you see on walk-in freezers, not on an appliance in someone's kitchen. My dad installed it while I sat at the table pretending to do homework. You'll earn access based on consistency, he said. This is a reset. I didn't ask what I was being reset from. I already knew. Later that night, he showed me the new system. He called them sound conditioning aids, a pair of sleek, wireless bone conduction headphones. They didn't go in my ears. They sat just above them, pressing against the bones on my face, sending vibration straight to my skull. When he turned them on, they played a steady tick, 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 like a metronome. This will help you pace your movements and speech, he said. Everything at a regulated tempo. I wore them from the moment I woke up until bedtime. The only exceptions were brushing my teeth, going to school, or speaking in therapy, which he now sat on, notebook in hand. If I walked too fast, the metronome sped up. If I breathed too loud, it clicked erratically until I matched its pace again. But that wasn't the worst part. He also introduced the focus pod. It used to be the broom closet under the stairs. Now it had white foam padding on every wall and floor. LED strips ran along the corners, blinking soft blue when it was still and turning red if I moved too fast or made noise. Time in the pod is a reflection period, he explained. It helps you reset your thresholds. The first time I was sent there was because I knocked over a pencil cup while reaching for my math worksheet. The plastic clatter echoed too loud. Red lights. Immediate demerit. 2 hours. Sitting cross-legged in total stillness while the lights pulsed with my breath. I counted every blink to pass the time. At school, things started to change. I couldn't focus. My head felt foggy. My thoughts moved slower than usual. My answers in class came out delayed, robotic. One teacher asked if I was tired. Another asked if I was okay. I nodded both times, but neither answer was true. Miss Torres noticed. She crouched beside me in the hallway one morning. Are those headphones for music? She asked softly. I whispered back. Doctor says it helps me stay low impact. She didn't write anything down. She just looked at me for a long time, like she was trying to see something deeper. A week later, Mr. Leland returned. But this time, my father was ready. He had a full binder labeled Therapeutic Compliance Logs. Inside were daily sound readings, behavior charts, notes from the so-called neurologist, none of it real, all of it forged. I watched Mr. Leland flip through the pages. My dad talked calmly, even smiled. You can see the progress he's made. It's measurable. We're proud of how well he's adapting. Leland nodded slowly. He didn't see the lock on the fridge. He didn't see the pod. He didn't hear the ticking in my ears every second of the day. He just saw the paper. And paper tells whatever story the person holding the pen wants it to. Her name was Ms. Beck. She was just the substitute. Our regular homeroom teacher, Mr. Langley, went out on paternity leave, and she showed up one Monday with a buzzed haircut and a backpack with patches from national parks. She said she used to be in the military but was training now to be a special education teacher. She didn't smile much, but she noticed things, like how I flinched every time the bell rang, or how I never spoke unless someone directly asked me something, or how I sat in my seat with my hands on my thighs, perfectly still, just like the metronome in my head taught me to be. She didn't say anything for the first few days. She just watched. Then came art class. We were making color collages with old magazines, cutting out images and gluing them on construction paper. Most kids were laughing and trading scissors, talking about their pets or whatever show they watched last night. I kept to myself. Quiet. Focused. Eyes down. Then I heard it. Tap. Tap, tap. Tap. Tap, tap, tap. It was faint, coming from 2 seats over. I glanced up. Miss Beck was sitting at the edge of the table, tapping her fingers lightly against the wood in a strange rhythm. I stared. Tap. Tap, tap. Tap. Tap, tap, tap. My chest tightened. It was Morse code. H-E-L-L-O. I swallowed hard. My fingers hovered over the table. Then, carefully, I tapped back. H-I. Her eyes flicked to mine. Just a second. Just enough to say, I see you. Later, as we were packing up, she slipped something into my sketchbook when no one was looking. I waited until I got home to open it. It was a small, square piece of paper. Handwritten. Leave a message inside the red dictionary in the library. That corner, 3rd shelf. Don't sign it. Just tell the truth. That night, I wrote my story on the back of a ripped math worksheet. Not everything. Just enough. I wrote about the tracker, the metronome, the fridge, the pod. I wrote that I wasn't allowed to speak loudly, that I had to count my footsteps and match them to the tick in my headphones, that I wasn't allowed to sleep on my bed, I didn't cry when I wrote it. I'd already done that part. The next morning, during library period, I walked straight to the red dictionary on the third shelf. I pulled it off carefully, slid my folded note between pages 372 and 373, and put it back. I didn't look up, didn't breathe until I was back in my seat. That afternoon, I saw Ms. Beck walk to the back shelf during cleanup time. She picked up the red dictionary, opened it, tucked the paper into her pocket, and didn't say a word. By the end of the day, she was gone. But that night, Ms. Torres called my house. I heard my dad answer, calm and professional as always. "We're very busy. Is this urgent?" I don't know what she said back, but I heard something shift in his voice. Something tight, something nervous. He hung up fast. The next morning, I saw Mr. Leland waiting by the school office. He didn't smile this time, error in message stream retry. Mr. Leland wasn't alone this time. A woman stood beside him, short and serious, holding a leather clipboard and wearing a badge clipped to her coat. She had the kind of eyes that looked past you and wrote things down before you even finished speaking. They didn't ask to pull me from class like before. This time, they came straight to the house. When we pulled into the driveway that afternoon, my father had already prepared everything. He met them at the door like a host greeting dinner guests, warm but measured, voice smooth and controlled. "Welcome back," he said. "I assume you've received the updated documentation?" The woman introduced herself as Dr. Calloway, a licensed medical evaluator from the county. She asked to tour the home and observe our routine. My father nodded as if he'd expected every word. "Of course," he said. "I'm glad someone is finally here to understand the program properly." He led them through each room like he was showing off a science project at a fair. My bedroom was spotless. The tracker was hanging neatly by the door. The decibel discipline chart was laminated and color-coded. Then he showed them the treatment room. It used to be our guest office. Now it was full of whiteboards with behavior graphs and hourly compliance checklists. A small table held visual timers, flashcards, earplugs in separate bins. A printed schedule on the wall read noise-free therapy intervals in bold font. There was even a photo of me on the wall, smiling awkwardly, next to a chart labeled improvement trends. Dr. Calloway flipped through the binder he handed her. It was thick, heavy. Everything inside was dated, annotated, signed, some even with stamps. "She's seen dramatic improvement," my father said. "This structure gives him security." Then came the kicker. He brought out a new file labeled PMC disorder, treatment logs. I watched Dr. Calloway's brow furrow. "PMC. Pervasive manipulative conduct disorder," he said smoothly. "It's rare. Highly underdiagnosed. His neurologist believes it's linked to environmental noise dysregulation. That's why the DDP is so critical." She blinked. "I'm not familiar with that diagnosis." "It's emergent," he replied. "Still being explored in pediatric studies. But you'll see, the data speaks for itself." Inside the file were graphs showing sudden emotional outbursts completely fake. Doctored videos with spliced audio of me crying, flailing, muttering things I never said. One clip had me screaming, but I knew the sound. It was lifted from a recording he'd made of me years ago, after a nightmare, overlaid with static and darkness to make it seem recent. Dr. Calloway watched silently. "Micah, do you feel like this program helps you?" she asked at one point. I tried to speak. I really did, but everything felt foggy. My tongue was thick. My words came out slow, clumsy. He changed the dosage again. I could feel it, like syrup in my brain. I blinked, trying to find the sentence. I try. Be good. If I don't, no more. No more lunch." Dr. Calloway looked at my father sharply. He raised a hand. "We're tapering one of his medications. His language centers fluctuate under stress. We've noticed some slurring during transitional times." She wrote something on her clipboard, but I saw her expression change. Only slightly. Still, it wasn't enough. When the meeting ended, she closed the file. "The boy's condition is complex," she said finally, "but the care appears adequate for now." Mr. Leland opened his mouth like he wanted to say more, but he didn't. They left quietly. The door clicked shut behind them. Later that night, I lay on the floor of my room, headphones buzzing with static. My arms felt too heavy to lift. I tried to remember how many demerits I'd earned that day. Too many. I'd spoken too slowly. I blinked too fast. I'd tried to tell the truth, but my father had rewritten it before I ever got the chance. Truth, it turns out, isn't what's real. It's what gets written down. The cameras came next. Tiny ones, black and round, drilled into the corners of my bedroom ceiling. Two in opposite corners, one just above the closet, another aimed directly at the floor where I slept. He told me it was for sleep behavior analysis, said it was part of the extended protocol. Triggers often occur during unconscious states, he explained while screwing the last one in. "This is purely for your safety." Safety? That word used to mean something else. I wasn't allowed to go to school full-time anymore. He called the district and arranged for partial home-based learning with therapeutic oversight. I'd go in on Wednesdays and Fridays for a few hours. The rest of the time, I was under his direct instruction. The headset stayed on. The ticks never stopped. He added white noise to the headphones. Not like a fan or the ocean, more like static wrapped around a heartbeat. It pulsed day and night, buzzing inside my bones. It was louder during math, softer during dinner. Sometimes, it disappeared for a minute just to remind me what silence used to feel like. I started forgetting things. What day it was. Whether I'd already eaten. Whether I had spoken aloud or only imagined it. Once, I came to standing in the hallway in different clothes. I didn't remember changing. I didn't remember moving. The focus pod became routine. For hours at first. Then 6. Then until I heard him unlock it with a code I was never allowed to see. Inside, the lights pulsed in time with my breath. If I shifted too quickly, they turned red. If I whimpered or coughed, they flickered. I started watching them instead of thinking. Blinking with the rhythm, so I wouldn't feel the hours passing. One night, I woke up in the pod with no memory of going there. I'd gone to bed on the floor like always, but now I was curled in the foam-lined corner with the static still playing in my ears. My tracker wasn't around my neck anymore. I reached up and felt the empty space. That scared me more than anything. Another time, I took a crayon from the homework drawer. I wrote on my bedsheet in shaky letters. Help. I'm not okay. Then I stood on my mattress, held it up toward the blinking red dot in the corner. The next morning, the camera was gone, replaced by a smaller one, mounted at eye level near the floor. The pod time doubled that day. No explanation. Just red lights. Just silence. Ms. Beck stopped coming to school. I asked the librarian if she was sick, and the woman just gave me a strange look and said, "Substitutes come and go, sweetie." I nodded like I understood. I tried the red dictionary again. And again. It was gone from the shelf. Not moved. Removed. Like it had never existed. I started slipping notes inside other books. A science encyclopedia. A torn library map. But no one ever came. No more whispers. No more taps. No more Beck. Just the pod. Just the tick. Just me. And a silence so thick, I couldn't tell anymore if it was something I heard or something I had become. It happened on a Friday. I had been allowed back at school for a single morning, something about peer integration exposure. My father walked me to the door himself, placed the tracker gently around my neck, and reminded me, keep your levels below 40 decibels. No surprises. I nodded. But halfway through third period, my legs gave out again. Not like before. This time I collapsed hard, right in the middle of the classroom. My hands wouldn't catch me. My brain couldn't keep up. Everything blurred into light and noise. My stomach twisted with nothing inside it, and my ears felt like they were full of sand. I heard someone scream, then shoes squeaking. A warm hand on my back. Ms. Torres' voice. Call 911 now. I woke up in the hospital, strapped to and for, with Nurse Julia adjusting a monitor beside me. Her eyes were kind but sharp, like Ms. Beck's had been. You're safe here, honey, she said. I turned my head slowly. The ceiling lights buzzed gently. The static in my skull was still faintly there, even without the headset. Do you know your name? She asked. I nodded. Micah. She smiled. Good. You're doing great. She left for a few minutes. When she came back, she had a file in her hand and a strange look on her face. You're not supposed to be on this, she said softly, pointing to a chart. This dosage. Micah, has someone been giving you medicine at home? I blinked. My dad says it keeps the spikes down. She narrowed her eyes. You ever feel foggy? Like you forget things? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Within an hour, Ms. Torres was at the hospital. And so was Ms. Beck. She looked different, tired, but steady. Her voice was flat but urgent. You found it, she told the nurse. Thank God. Then came the flood. They ordered a full psychiatric evaluation. Nurse Julia called in the hospital's social worker. The attending physician reviewed my blood panel twice. They found the medication, traced it to a compound that wasn't listed on any of my father's reports. When CPS arrived again, they didn't wait at the door this time. They didn't smile. My father showed up not long after. Suit and coat. Calm as ever. There's been a mistake, he said. Someone's been tampering with his regimen. He didn't get to finish. The doctor showed him the lab results, the forged prescription notes, the discrepancies in my logs. He tried to argue, but this time, no one was listening. A judge issued an emergency order. Temporary removal from custody. Just like that, I wasn't going home. Not yet. They sent investigators to the house. They found the focus pod, the forged neurologist logs. They found something else, too, behind the drywall in my room, a small audio recorder, set to play faint looping whispers at night. Labeled, misbehavior cue, sleep phase. The truth couldn't be silenced anymore. Not even by him. The case went further than anyone expected. Once the focus pod and forged documents were uncovered, investigators dug deeper. A search warrant turned up more than just logs and equipment. They found emails between my father and a nonprofit tutoring center he used to work with. Records of another child, a foster teen he had mentored 5 years ago. A boy who had suddenly dropped out of the program, vanished without a trace. They tracked him down. He was 19 now, living 3 states away, studying forensic psychology. And when he heard what was happening to me, he agreed to testify. They put everything together, my testimony, the medical records, the forged charts, the altered videos. The hospital report proved the medications I'd been forced to take had no clinical justification. The dosages were dangerously high. The headphones, the decibel tracker, the isolation, all part of an unlicensed behavioral experiment my father had constructed without oversight. They charged him with felony child abuse, false imprisonment, medical fraud, and unlawful sedation of a minor. At trial, he sat in his navy blue blazer, expression unreadable. He still tried to control the narrative, calm voice, scientific words, thick binders full of data. But the prosecution shredded his story. A neurologist from the state testified, "There is no such thing as pervasive manipulative conduct disorder. It does not exist. This was fabricated." Ms. Beck spoke clearly, firmly. She explained how she recognized the signs of nonverbal distress, how I'd responded to Morse code, how the notes in the red dictionary had told a story no paper log could fake. Ms. Torres detailed the CPS reports, the early warnings, the near misses. She cried once, just once, when describing the first day she heard me say, "Just don't erase my dinner." And I testified too. From a safe house, via video. I wore a plain gray sweater and noise-canceling headphones, not because I had to, but because I wanted the quiet. I told the court about the decibel discipline protocol, about the metronome, the pod, the silence that swallowed me whole. I didn't cry. Not then. But when I said, he taught me to be small, because small things don't upset him, the room went still. Even the judge looked away for a second. The jury came back in under 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. He got 25 years. No chance at parole for the first 15. When the sentence was read, he didn't move. He just sat there, like none of it applied to him. Like this was someone else's trial. But it wasn't. It was mine. Afterward, I was placed with my uncle, my mother's brother, a piano teacher in a small town an hour away. He didn't say much when I arrived. Just handed me a soft blanket, showed me where the fridge was, and told me the bed creaked a little, but no one minded. That first night, he knocked once before bed. "I got these," he said, holding out a case of noise-canceling headphones. "Only if you want quiet. Not because you have to be." I didn't say anything, but I took them. And for the first time in my life, I fell asleep not fearing sound, but choosing silence. That was 8 years ago. Now I'm 17, and I live in a small house near a lake with my uncle, Thomas. He teaches piano out of the front room, classical, jazz, sometimes just old movie themes. He still leaves the fridge unlocked. Still knocks before entering a room. Still makes pancakes on Saturdays and never asks why I like my eggs cold. I'm not scared of sound anymore. I chase it. I've joined a local music collective, a mix of teenagers and college kids, most of them figuring things out just like me. We use rhythm to talk about things that are hard to explain. Some use drums. Some use voice. I use coded patterns. Morse beats. Controlled chaos. On the anniversary of my removal, the day the court order pulled me from that house, I performed at the community center. The stage was small, the lights a little too bright, but I didn't care. Ms. Torres was there, sitting in the second row, hands clasped tight in her lap. Ms. Beck came too. She'd driven in from 2 counties over. My piece was called Threshold. It was percussion only, snare, cymbals, finger snaps. Every rhythm sequence was made from real Morse code. Words like help and enough, and I'm still here. The whole piece built to a crescendo and then cut out in total silence for exactly 10 seconds. I didn't move. No one did. The silence shook the walls more than the drums ever could. After the show, people lined up to talk to me. Some just nodded. Some cried. Ms. Beck hugged me longer than most people would have thought was okay. Then someone handed me a folded letter. It was from him, the foster kid my father had tried to disappear years ago. The one who testified. He was in college now, studying forensic psychology. He said he'd seen my performance online, that he cried, that it made something in him shift. He wrote, "We don't stay silent anymore. And if we're lucky, we become the noise that saves someone else." I stood there, gripping that letter, heart rattling in my chest. I used to believe silence kept people safe. But now I know better. Silence can be a weapon, but sound can be armor. I walked back to the stage, looked out at the empty chairs, and thought about every second I'd spent in that pod. Every tick of that headset. Every minute I believed I deserved it. Not anymore. Now I teach rhythm to other kids like me. Ones who flinch when you call their name too fast. Ones who still count their steps. I don't tell them to speak louder. I just give them drums. And I listen.